What's up everyone and welcome to another episode of Handles. My name is Lorenzo, and before we dive into the story, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell so you're alerted anytime new material comes out. You want more handles? You can follow me on my Instagram account, my Facebook account, and the Twitter account. Just in case you need a little bit more, you can also follow me on my website as well. With that said, let's dive right in. How often do you find yourself using time as an excuse? I mean, don't get me wrong. I know we can use time all over the place and there are a lot of different examples, right? You're with your loved ones, family members, friends, having a great time, and you wish you had more time. On the other hand, you're at that aimless job or in that boring class and it's just not moving fast enough and you wish time would speed up. Time can't win in most cases. And we think time is a lot of things, but an excuse? Not so much. Stay with me on this one. Welcome to Handles. Everyone has a grip on life. Everybody feels like they have a handle. Afraid to share the mistakes. The stories are what connect us. They're the key. We're running out of time. So one day I'm hanging out in my office, knocking some things out, and the store manager comes to me and he says, "Lorenzo, I need your help. I need you to be a witness to a conversation that I'm going to have with an associate." I said, "All right, what's it going to be about?" So, well, this associate just, for whatever reason, consistently is not getting specific tasks done. It's just not completing what they already committed to saying that they were going to complete. And it's happened multiple times. As a matter of fact, the other day I tried to stop the associate on their way out of work and they just blew me off, gave me a cold shoulder and walked out the door like they were in a rush. And I need to address it now. I said, all right. So Mike, being the store manager, brings in this associate, sits him down and starts having a conversation with him. Now this associate, let me give you a little bit of background on him. His name is Greg. Greg's a pretty good guy, tenured associate, been with the company for maybe 4 to 5 years, if not a little bit more. But he has an issue when it comes to time management, struggles with it. And multiple people have had conversations with him before about it in the past. So the store manager at this time, Mike, is saying, hey, look, you're not doing this, you're not completing that. This is how it's affecting the business. I can't afford for this to happen anymore. I have to hold you accountable. Greg says, my bad, I know I need to get it done. I just ran out of time. Okay? So Mike says, well, that's not an excuse, right? You're an hourly associate, but you have 8 hours a day that you're able to accomplish these specific tasks. And you've already been able to do those tasks so far in your past, so we know that you can accomplish it. You're just doing something else right now that's not allowing you to finish everything on your work list. And that needs to stop. So I got to hold you accountable. Greg takes it, absorbs it, embraces it, says that he'll do better, shake hands, they go separate ways. After they leave, I call Mike back in and said, Mike, what do you think is the reason why he's not able to complete these tasks? So Mike replies, I don't know, but I'm running out of patience and I can't afford for him to continue missing on this specific opportunity because it's affecting the business. I get it, no problem. So not less than 2 days later, 48 hours, I see Mike again. He comes back and he says, Lorenzo, you're not going to believe this. Remember we had that conversation the other day that you sat in on as a witness, and I specifically told Greg I needed him to do A, B, C, and D before he leaves every day. So yeah, remember the conversation like it was yesterday because it literally was. He said, well, I just checked and he's still not completing those tasks. So I'm going to call him back in and I'm going to have another conversation with him and I'm going to hold him accountable again. And I just want to let you know that that's what's happening. So I said, do me a favor, Mike. This time when you have the conversation, since I won't be a witness, I need you to ask him specifically what seems to be the barriers that are not allowing him to finish these tasks. Like what resources can we help him with or we can provide him to help him complete these tasks? Like what's going on? Ask him what's going on. Maybe there's something else outside of work that we need to know about. Mike said, no problem, I'll do it. Just want to give you a heads up, Lorenzo. It's cool, no problem. So lo and behold, not 24 hours later, can't make this up. Not 24 hours later, Mike comes back into my office and says, Lo, I'm done. I'm washing my hands with Greg. He is still not completing these specific tasks. And this is the easiest things that he can be doing. And it's affecting my business now. Now everybody else is starting to have to pick up a little bit more because he's dropping the ball on his end. I can't do it anymore. I said, well, hold on, Mike. If you don't mind, allow me to have a conversation with Greg. Just one-on-one. He said, Lorenzo, you do what you got to do, but I'm just letting you know I'm out of patience. So I called Greg in. We sit there and we're having a conversation. I said, Greg, tell me what seems to be the problem right now. Mike is telling me that you're still not accomplishing the basic tasks that you've already committed to doing. What seems to be the barrier? What are the obstacles? Why are you not doing them? Greg goes on to tell me that he feels like in his day he has so many different things going on, and he's knocking out so many different tasks and requests and different things like that, that by the time the end of his day comes, he just runs out of time in order to complete the last few things. So the first thing I do is I pull up his schedule. Let's see how long Greg works. Now Greg works 6 to 3 every day, 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. But I noticed Greg leaves at 2:59. You know those associates. Oh, you know those coworkers. You even know that boss. That if they're supposed to leave at 5 o'clock, they are 4:59 standing by that little punch out line, whether it's a computer, whatever it may be. They are ready a minute before, and they will not be late leaving. That's Greg. So Greg leaves at 2:59 every day. And so I asked Greg, I said, looks like it's about 2 or 3 things that maybe take 5 or 10 minutes each that you could knock out. Why do you leave exactly at the time you're supposed to leave? Like, is there anything you can do within your 8 hours that you can wiggle some of that time around to where you can add these 3 tasks to them to have them completed? That way you can execute? He said, no, man, my day is just packed. That 8 hours, I'm consistently doing things and it's packed. I said, okay. I said, well, if you don't mind me asking, Greg, what do you do after work? Tell me about life. So he says, well, I'm a single father. I lost my wife about 4 or 5 years ago to cancer. I have 3 beautiful girls, 2 in middle school and 1 in high school. And they mean everything to me. I said, well, that's cool, man. It's nice to hear. Sounds like a busy body, sounds like a busy house, but that's cool. I said, so what do you do after you leave work? Like, how do you spend your time? So he says, after I leave work, I literally have to drive to the other side of town because that's where I live. And my daughters go to school there. And one of my daughters in high school has band practice. And I've always told her that I will not miss her band practice. Band practice starts about 3:30, almost 4 o'clock. So I have to be leaving exactly at 3 o'clock if I'm going to beat traffic and get to the other side of town in order to enjoy her practice and keep my commitment that I've given to her. I said, that makes sense. I said, I guess that explains the 2:59. He said, absolutely. And I said, I guess that also explains why you kind of blow off or give Mike the cold shoulder at about 3 o'clock when he's still finding things that are not completed on your end. He said, exactly. So I have to get out of here because that's a priority for me. I cannot miss my daughter's band practice. I will not do it. I committed to her that I'll be there and I will be there. But I said, Greg, I got to ask you a question. What about the commitments that you've given to your employer? You also committed to them that you'd be able to complete these specific tasks within this specific time frame. And lately you've been missing on that. So where's the rub? How can we help? What can we do? He said, Lorenzo, I don't know. I know I can do it. I just need to figure out how to make time in my day. So I shake hands with Greg. He exits the office and I sit there and think a little bit. I call Mike in and say, Mike, you realize Greg lives on the other side of town? You know he's a single father. You know he has 3 kids, all girls, 2 middle school, 1 high school. Mike said, yeah, I know a little bit of that. Maybe not all of it, but I know a little bit of that. I said, well, did you know that he has to leave at 3 o'clock on the dot if he's going to make his daughter's band practice every day? He said, no, I didn't know that. I said, I didn't either. So what me and Mike decided to do was try to come up with a transfer opportunity for Greg. How could we get him to move closer to home so he doesn't have to commute as much every day, which may buy him some extra time to complete the tasks that we continue holding him accountable for? Maybe that's the answer to the quiz. Maybe not. But he deserves the chance. So that's what we do. We connect with another store manager. We get Greg to start transferring over to another location. What happens to Greg, I don't know. But I hope it bought him the time that he needed to start making his commitments. You see, we get a lot of things confused these days when it comes to time. Time and priorities are completely two different things, but we find ourselves using time as the excuse more often than not. And I haven't figured out why. You've heard the excuses. I ran out of time, time got away from me, time was flying, I got too busy, just not enough time in the day. I mean, if we have an opportunity to blame anything, time always seems to be the number one culprit. And I don't get why. When really, it's probably how we're managing time. There's two things I want you to take away from this. Two very important things. The first thing is people make time for the things that matter to them the most. Every day, no matter what. Learned that a long time ago from my mother, and it still holds true to this day. I'll repeat it. People make time for the things that matter to them the most. Priority list. Every day you wake up and you have specific things, hopefully, that you want to accomplish in that day. If you do not, that's another story for another time. We should be planning our lives. Not important. If you decide that you're going to get something to eat, 3 square meals, you're going to take a nice shower, put on your makeup, brush your teeth, make up your bed, watch your favorite television show, read that favorite book, reach out to the people that you like to clown with and have a good time with, scroll through social media a little bit. You do all these things all day long. And at the moment that you do them, they are the priority. And 9 times out of 10, by the time you lay back down in that bed to go to sleep, you have completed the priorities that were on your list. 9 times out of 10. Now the issue is the things that you write down as being your priorities aren't always the things you truly see as being priorities. Working out is probably a priority, but you're good with missing it. Putting gas in your car is a priority, but technically you still got 15 miles before you go to eat. We play with these things all day long, and when we don't accomplish them, we blame them on time. If people make time for the things that matter the most, then you have to accept the fact that you also have commitments that could be missed, i.e. Greg. You see, he committed 100% to making sure he makes his daughter's band practice. He also committed to the company that he was going to complete specific tasks. But it was okay for him to miss those. Even though they were priorities for him, they weren't that serious if he missed them. All of us have to come to the understanding that just because someone is not completing something, they're not completing the request or the requirement that we may have placed out there for them. That simply means that we were not on the top priority list for that individual on that day. And that's okay. What's not okay is you consistently accepting or embracing the fact that you're not a top priority in that individual's day. That is your fault. So that's the first thing you have to understand, is people make time for the things that matter to them the most. The second thing I want you to take away is time is never the excuse. How many times have you heard the phrases, give me a second or give me a minute? Probably multiple, right? Depending on your current occupation or what your environment is that you're currently in, you probably hear it all the time. Do you realize there's 60 seconds in a minute? There are 3,600 seconds in an hour. Over 86,000 seconds in a day. The last thing I need to do is give you a second. You got plenty of them. If you haven't been able to finish that task, if you haven't been able to reach out to that significant other that means the most to you, the average text message takes 45 seconds, not only to complete, but to deliver. And you get 86,000 seconds at least in a day. And you're telling me you didn't have 45 to give me the text? Come on. There's 1,440 minutes in a day. Over 10,000 minutes in a week. And you need me to give you a minute? One thing is for sure. We can't guarantee how much time all of us are going to have specifically on this planet or anything else. But we know there's a pretty good chance that we are going to have 24 hours tomorrow, which is 1,440 minutes, by the way, which is over 86,000 seconds. We're pretty sure that we're going to get that tomorrow. Now that we know that, how do we manage that time? How do we effectively prioritize? How do we make sure we squeeze everything that we want to squeeze in that day? That's important to us. If you missed your son's soccer game, don't get there and say that you missed it because you ran out of time, or time flew by, or it got away from you. You missed it because it wasn't a priority. That's why you missed it. Not because of time. You knew exactly how much time you had in the day. You decided there were other things that were more important at the time, thus not being able to make it to Jimmy's soccer game. The next time someone looks at you square in the face and they tell you that they haven't accomplished or completed or whatever, stuck with their commitment, and they blame it on some form of time, you've got to be smart enough to understand that it has nothing to do with time. It has everything to do with how they're managing their priorities. And you, ma'am, or you, sir, at that time were not the priority within that time frame. That's why they didn't do it. We don't have all the time in the world. I agree totally. But we do have enough time to make the right impact if we manage our priorities the right way. So I'll leave you with this. If you continue using time as an excuse, I can almost guarantee that you have not slowed down to learn how to manage it. Thanks again for joining me on another episode of Handles. Sure hope it added value. If it did, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and of course share it with your family members and or loved ones, or just the individuals you know need to hear it. With that said, I'll catch you next time, right here on Handles.